Hi, I'm Jan with Academic Technology. Today we're going to go into Quickly Attendance, which allows faculty to take attendance in their classes either manually or by having students check in on a computer or mobile device. Before you and your class can use it, however, you have to know how it works. We'll start by showing you how to set up the tool in Scholar, then model using it to take attendance in a classroom environment. Finally, we'll look at editing attendance records and provide you with a view of how your students will make use of Quickly Attendance. If you have any questions after watching this video, please feel free to email me at jana.doherty@cnu.edu. You can add Quickly to a course menu in Scholar by clicking the plus sign at the top of the menu and selecting Tool Link. Give the link a name like Attendance and choose Quickly Attendance 2019 Plus from the drop-down menu. If you want students to be able to check themselves in or see their attendance record, click Available to Users before clicking Submit, which will make the link appear. Once the link appears at the bottom, you can click on it to begin the setup process. Your first step once you click your new link is simple. The first thing you'll see when you use this application for the first time is this screen, which is simply asking you to authorize any operations done by the application. Just click Allow, and it'll push you through to the main screen. You'll see a big link that says Begin Setup, which, once you click it, will bring you to a series of options, all on a single page. We can see that page here, where we can choose the settings for how we want to take attendance. You can change these settings later if you find they don't work for you, but let's do a quick overview now. Your first choice is how the attendance is displayed on the instructor's version of this tool. You can choose whether you want this tool to display a list of all the students in your course, display these students one at a time, display an alphabetical list using accessibility mode. This is a mode that you'll want to use, by the way, if you're using certain types of screen readers, or allow students to check themselves into class. In addition, you can also set various preferences for how attendance information is viewed. For example, you can choose to show absences on the Take Attendance screen. You can choose to round the grades for attendance to the nearest whole number. You can choose to show all unavailable and disabled students on the attendance record. We recommend against using this option though, as it will result in your attendance record including students that have dropped the course. And you can choose whether or not the records are shown from oldest to newest or from newest to oldest. Your second choice is the method of grading you want to apply when taking attendance. Total points lets you set a total number of points for the entire semester of attendance. Quickly Attendance will adjust the grade based on the percentage of class periods that a student has attended as attendance is taken. For example, a student who has attended 2 out of 3 class periods will have an attendance grade of 66%. But if he attends the 4th class, it'll jump to 75%. Points per session, however, allows you to set a certain number of points to be given to a student each time he or she is marked present. For example, you can have each session set to about 10 points each. If you choose either grading option, the Grade Center will automatically create a column called Attendance. Finally, you can choose the name of that attendance if you don't like the original name, and set the amount of points you want attendance to be worth. But you can also choose to record attendance without setting a grade by clicking No Gradebook Column. You can also choose to show a column that has a number of points per each absence. If I click it here, I can see that I can choose the column name for absences, and I can choose the number of points any absence is worth. If you want to make an absence subtract points from a total attendance score, you would want to put a negative number in this field. If you opt to have students check themselves in to gather attendance data, You can set a 4-digit PIN to appear during each check-in period. This PIN will be randomized and different for each session. You can also set a check-in timer for how long that PIN is active. For example, if you set that timer for 15 minutes, a student that comes in 30 minutes into the class will no longer be able to be marked as present. You can even opt whether or not you wish to send an email to students who are marked absent for a given session. You can even write a customized message in the case of said absence. Finally, you can view available attendance statuses for your course. The default statuses for attendance are present, absent, and excused, each with their own color. However, you are given the option to create custom course statuses if these aren't sufficient for your needs. For example, if you want to create a separate status for a late student, you'll place an order. Since we're only making one custom, we'll add just a 1. We'll put the name late. You can choose the percentage of points you want that student to receive for a late status. In this case, we'll split it 50-50. You can also create a custom color to mark those statuses. In this case, we'll choose a bright yellow, and we'll show you why those colors come into play later. When you've selected your desired settings, click Save Settings at the bottom of the page. You'll be returned to the top of the page with the following message. Your settings have been saved. Return to attendance. Clicking Return to Attendance will take you to a space where you can start taking attendance. Once you've chosen your settings, each time you click the tool link in your menu, you'll be taken to this page where you can start taking attendance. Remember, you can change the settings at any time by clicking Settings. But for now, let's take a look at taking attendance. If you chose the list display, you'll see your full list of students, as well as a space where you can determine the time you're taking attendance, either current or custom if you need to note a past or future date and time, and a session title. From here, you can mark each student as present or absent or any other statuses you may have chosen. You'll also have comment bubbles on the side where you can make comments related to their status. For example, this student was late due to traffic. However, we can switch back and forth between each setting. For example, one-on-one setting, we can see each student individually with arrows where we can toggle back and forth between students. We can also see our accessibility list. It moves the students alphabetically and still has all of the components, including a field for status and for comments. For any mode, clicking on Submit Attendance at the bottom will submit attendance for the class, send you a notification, and update the Grade Center if you are grading attendance. You'll also see a check-in tab at the top of your screen. If you don't want to have to take attendance yourself, you can start a check-in at any time by clicking the Check-in tab, then clicking Start Check-in. The check-in will run until you end it by clicking the End Check-in button. As I mentioned, if you selected the PIN option, the PIN for this session will automatically be generated on this page as well. This is something that your students will have to see during that opening period of your class. So maybe write it on a place your students can easily see. If you chose a timer, you'll also see how long that check-in period will automatically close. Although you can end check-in early at any time. One thing I want to note is you cannot combine manual and student check-in attendance for the same class period. Occasionally, you may find that you have to edit an attendance session. For example, if a student got marked absent, then you later decide to excuse that absence. To view your student's attendance record, click Attendance Record up at the top. You will then be taken to the attendance records for your students. This is where the colored statuses come into play. Here we can see the red X's for absent and the green check marks for present. Just a few samples. From here, we can filter attendance records by student name or scroll through records for multiple attendance sessions. You can also delete an attendance column by clicking the button at the top of each column and selecting Delete Session. Once you delete a column, it will erase all records related to this date, meaning that you cannot retrieve them. So be sure when you're deleting a column that this is what you want to do. You can also change an attendance value by clicking on that individual value. For example, let's find that attendance record that we want to change. If we click on the status that's listed, say absent, it'll open up a window where we can change that status and provide commentary. Student was absent due to heavy traffic. Then click on Update to save that comment and that new status. Now we see that it is listed as excused. Other items, such as the number of points they've earned and the number of absences they've had, may not update automatically to record any changes to the record, but give them some time and they will update. Finally, you can export an attendance record to an Excel file using this Export button on the top bar. Now we see it's downloading here. The last thing we'll look at today is what your students will see on their own version of the tool. Remember, when you created the tool link, you have the option to make that tool visible to your students, but they won't see everything that you will. After all, they're not the ones taking attendance. To take a look, we've set up a separate window, but I'd like to start by starting a check-in. And we'll leave that open. Now if we go to our student window, we can see that the link is already available for this student. If I click on that link, I'll see a few things. The first thing that you'll see, if we look at the bottom here, is the attendance record. This is something that students will be able to see regardless of whether or not a check-in is currently running. They'll be able to see the date of each attendance session that's been taken, a list of their total statuses, and the number of absences that they have for this course so far. The other items on this page are only visible if the instructor has already started a check-in period. For example, if you've activated the option to have a PIN, you'll see a space where the student can enter the PIN that you've posted to the front of the class. If you've activated the timer, they'll see the timer as well. Finally, they'll have the button to place a check-in. I think our PIN is here, so we'll put in that PIN in the given space and click check-in. And it tells them the check-in is successful and defaults to what they would see if the check-in were not still running, because they've already checked in. Like the Grade Center, you don't have to worry about students seeing other people's attendance records. They will only ever be able to see their own. Thank you for watching this video on Quickly Attendance. We hope it helped answer any questions you may have. But if you have any left, please feel free, again, to email me at jana.docherty@cnu.edu. Bye!